So let's have a look. This story is about a couple of things. This one doesn't necessarily go into it as well, but just yesterday, Chewy, the government pulled out of the emissions trading scheme, the agricultural sector out of the emission trading scheme. So New Zealand's biggest polluter, quote unquote, biggest contributor to carbon emissions is now not going to be in the ETS. And one of the points that they made on the Working Group podcast last night, which I don't know if I've got it featured in our clip or not, is that actually, even if you think climate change will bunk them, even if you're not, we have signed contracts to say we will be at this point on this date. And if we're not, then New Zealand's going to be paying a lot of money. So we've kind of gone beyond that point when it comes to governmental implementation of, is it for reals? Is it not for reals? Right now we have an obligation. So taking our biggest emitters out of that scheme might end up hurting us pretty bloody badly, if I'm frank with you. Let's have a look at the story from tonight around field days and around the banking inquiry.
And part of it will be focusing on the rural sector after complaints from farmers that they haven't been getting a fair go from their lenders.
Yeah, so we're being told this is driven by farmers. Farmers are complaining about this.
Many field services are substandard and they're getting hit with higher interest rates. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
Farmers turned up in droves to field days today, and politics was on the menu.
Farmers and others in the primary sector have told us that access to borrowing has become more difficult, that farmers are paying higher interest rates compared to other borrowers.
He wants MPs to get to the bottom of what's going on, announcing a select committee inquiry.
Now, no one's going to complain about that, are we, Chewy? Everyone's saying these banks that are taking billions of dollars of profits primarily back to Australia, we're not going to complain about an inquiry. It would be good to see the terms of reference for that inquiry to actually know exactly what they're looking at, because is this going to be something to backstrap federated farmers and to look after the rural sector, or will this be something that'll help us all? And after our independent inquiry conversation last night, where some people were pretty distrusting, I like the idea of a banking inquiry, but the devil's in the detail, and we need to know exactly what are they going to be looking at.
Yeah, I certainly don't trust them to investigate their finance bros.
We've heard consistently, time and time again, hey, listen, are we getting overcharged with our interest rates?
But farmers we spoke to today were all pretty happy with their banks.
I have two banks and they're always good with the relationship managers. Interest rates are high, but, it's sort of to and fro with them. You can always make a deal with them.
Oh, my relationship's good because my debt's not bad.
And our MPs.
So that's, it's as anecdotal as them saying we hear from farmers. They hear from farmers as well. But interesting that TVNZ chose to feature farmers going, no, it's sweet as. Is that a representation of the farmers they spoke to, or is TVNZ lining up the narrative along a way to contradict the government, Chewy? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Look, I'd love it if it was an inquiry into the fact that all of our major banks are foreign owned and they just extract profit from this country and send it overseas. That's not what we're getting. We're getting something that is focused at a particular sector of New Zealand industry. It's not like it's an overarching thing of like our businesses getting charged higher rates. It's our farmers hurting too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like the New Zealand banking sector is one of the most profitable banking sectors in the world.
Yeah,
because of how our interest rates are structured. You go overseas, you can get a mortgage where they lock in the rate for fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
But we've got to change ours every 12 months. It's strange. He's not looking at what's strange. He's pandering to a particular sector that looks after National very well.
Yeah, and it might be like if farmers aren't looking for this, like if they're not, if it's just, it might just be him sending smoke signals to farmers going, we're going to keep looking after you. Like, we can't draw that conclusion because we don't know. But as I said, TVNZ have painted the narrative that farmers seem to be okay with their banks. National's painting the narrative that farmers are really struggling hard with their banks. I guess, hopefully, depending on the terms of reference for this inquiry, we might find that out. All right, keep going, eh?
Yep.
have already been looking into it,
Hello, I'm Mark Cameron. I'm the chair of the Primary Production Select Committee.
seeking answers from banks about rural loans and borrowing.
The history has shown us that lending to businesses, including the agri sector, is riskier than lending to homeowners. And as a result, we do hold twice as much capital against an agri loan as a home loan.
But bank branches have been shut across rural New Zealand.
From a farmer's perspective, that, you know, this level of service from the banks has been what I would consider pretty ordinary.
Debt in the agricultural sector has ballooned over the last 35 years, fuelled by dairy conversions and increases in the price of land. And now hit with high interest rates, some farmers are feeling the pinch.
If you're a sheep and beef farmer and you've moved into the sector in the last few years, you're probably carrying a lot too much debt at the moment. Yeah, just because of the prices.
The government's decision to keep agriculture out of the emissions trading scheme also on farmers' minds today.
Good on them.
Why good on them?
Because I don't believe in the carbon emissions.
I vote ACT.
Fucking science, man.
I mean, I'm not showing you this tonight, but I'm pretty sure News Hub ran a poll, or maybe they just reported on a poll. And for farmers, you'll be surprised to hear that climate change is not the top issue they're concerned about. It's right near the bottom.
They're going to be wearing it. They are going to be, oh, look, my topsoil's gone. The weather patterns have changed. My crops aren't coming in at the same time as I thought they would. This man doesn't believe it. Great. It's still happening, whether he believes it or not. And if his markets for whatever his product is dry up because we're the guys dragging the chain, well, we sort of go, oh, Europe needs to do their thing. The US needs to do their thing. The agreements that we've signed said that we'll pick up our share, and we don't. Our markets dry up. And then he doesn't have anywhere to sell. He'll just have to sell it locally. The last place they want to sell their product, because they can get a better price overseas, or at least they could, until old Johnny Numbnuts here goes, I don't believe that the fucking seasons are changing as fucking, cows. Climate change doesn't care whether you believe it or not. It's happening.
Yeah. The other side of this is if you don't believe in it, so you do nothing about it, maybe actively you kind of harm it, then you're probably going to be one of the people running to the government in 5 or 10 years' time going, help, help, my property's underwater, or the water table in the property has come up. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're doing nothing to help it now, and you're one of those people who gets impacted by it, and then you want help for it, then how fair does that sound?
I'm riddled with cancer because the nitrate levels in my bore water have gone bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Listen to the man again.
Why good on them?
Because I don't believe in the carbon emissions.
I think we do need to be part of the ETS because it gives us a base point that we can defend ourselves going forward.
The Greens weighing in too.
Climate delay is the new denial, and it's deeply unfortunate that the government's just decided to set up yet.
That's interesting. Climate delay is the new denial. She spoke very quickly, did Chloe? But yeah, think about that. Climate delay is the new denial. Interesting.
Yep.
Another working group which is seemingly just putting this issue in the industry-led too hard basket.
Our agricultural emissions remain a hot topic.
Benedict's with us now live from Parliament. Benedict,
then he goes to talk on something else. He talks about, is it Maureen Pugh? Alleges an assault at a protest. So that's the second part of that conversation. But so we're out of the the agriculture's out of the emissions trading scheme. It is the biggest contributor to the emissions we need to be concerned about, and farmers need more help from the banks. Now, I heard that banker say that it's clear I'm rephrasing, but it's clear within the research that there is twice as much risk in the rural sector as in the urban sector. So of course, if there's twice as much risk, there's going to be more collateral needed or more rules around lending. It kind of makes sense. The question is, Chewy, if farmers or the rural sector are paying more than the non-rural sector, is it fair? You pay more for a house in Auckland than you do in Tokoroa. is it fair? I mean, it may not be fair for the prices, but you know what I mean? It's not always just more equals bad. We've got to figure out if more is fair or not. And if they're double the risk and they pay a quarter more, that would seem to be a fair offset. If they're double the risk and they pay 3 times more, that would probably seem to be unfair. So I don't want to say it twice in one night. So I'll say, you organise these words in your own sentence, devil's detail in it.
Yeah, like one thing that these big banks are really good is weighing up risk. You know, what is a risky endeavor? Is your business likely to fail? Is there, say, some massive change to the climate on the horizon that is going to make our investment in your farming endeavor less likely to deliver a return on our money? They have hundreds of people with pocket protectors calculating risk to the bank. So yeah, my thinking is that if the banks are choosing a higher rates for farming, maybe that's an indication. Like I've always said, when it comes to climate change, it will be led by insurance companies and banks. You know, you might think it's not happening, but they're looking at maps showing floodplains, and they're looking at maps showing the gradient of your property, and they're looking at maps to see how much risk you are for the next former tropical cyclone. Yeah, right. So that all factors into it. Not to come screaming to the defense of banks or anything, because as I said, they are purely designed to siphon money out of this country. You know, these are the things. Old Joe blogs, I don't believe in carbon. It doesn't matter. The bank doesn't care. Climate change doesn't care. Like, you can say whatever you like. You just look like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike. You know, please don't say that I've come up with a lovely folk tale all on my own that is now turned into some sort of slur during Pride Month.
You're right. I'm just. You keep going. This is
no, I can't keep going. It's where I get in trouble.
Why don't we say what Campbell says then? Campbell, thank you for the super chat. I wonder if this inquiry will be no involvement from farmer and banks. Kind order all over again. Yeah, independent meaning we won't involve the banks or we won't involve the farmers. That's quite a funny text, and unfortunately sadly true. I guess this is talking to the climate change, warmest June temperatures on record so far. I guess it is only, it's 12 days in. I was going to say it's hardly into it, but halfway through. Holy mackerel. Kiwi Rascal, help, the weather's gone all woke. Thank you very much for your message. Paula says, farmers are the first to line up for handouts when there's a snap blizzard and extreme drought. It's like, help me government, it's your fault. There's no climate change. What the fuck? Yeah, it's like that idea that, what do they say, that business profits are privatized and losses are socialized. That's why they get around their money. Yeah, all right.
I mean, I've mentioned this a couple of times as someone that grew up in Timaru and, you know, on the edge of the Canterbury Plains and that sort of thing. I remember the big droughts of the late 80s and that sort of thing, where there just was no grass left. Everything was sunburned out and stock was dying. Now that was when it was sheep. Sheep you don't need to do fuck all for. You know, they were just fine on the grass as it grew on the plains. Now the Canterbury Plains has been converted to dairy, very water intensive. The rivers are down and polluted, and our weather patterns are unpredictable. So what happens when you go into a drought and so much of your economy is about milk solids?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think these guys realize they've got an institutional memory for some things, but not for others.
This is going to sound very patronizing, but I have teenagers who are both the love of my life and the bane of my existence all at the same time. And you say to them, look, here are the conditions around, you know, what you're going to do today. You know, you want your boyfriend to come over. Okay, here are the terms and conditions, and we negotiate. I teach my kids to negotiate. And if they break those terms and conditions, it's like, well, we're not going to do that next time. Or we're not going to, you screwed me around. We're not going to do it next time. I do wonder sometimes about not just farmers, but people in that world who you kind of go, like the next time there's a drought and they come to the government because they need help. Sure, fine. But the government goes, okay, now the terms and conditions are, do you realize you are contributing on some small way to this drought? So if we're going to help you this time, you need to do a few things once we get you back up and running to help this not happen in 10 years from now, in 40 years from now, or be even worse in 100 years from now. And I'm not saying treat them like kids. It's a bit of a weird thing, but I guess I've been negotiating with children and boyfriends today, so it's on my mind. So it's like, you know, we will help you. We're here to help you, but you got to play your part. I guess it's like the last message I just put up. You got to play your part. And if you don't play your part, maybe next time the help won't be there. Because if you're just going to, you know, if you're going to just keep punching yourself in the face, eventually we're gonna stop giving you a free trip to the hospital to fix the broken nose. Because we've told you to stop punching yourself in the face, and you need to stop punching yourself in the face, because if you don't, you're going to get another broken nose. And if you keep doing it, eventually there's going to be no free A&E for you. You'll have to pay for it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's doing things together, not having the government kind of come in and make it all big and heavy, but not having the rural sector kind of flip the bird to the government either. It's finding that middle ground and working together, which might be Pollyanna, but it feels like it's the way it should be.